Hi traders, welcome back to the channel. So I want to approach you with something that I'm sort of struggling with. Every trader has their sort of Achilles heel. And this one just keeps on just getting to me every single time. Yeah, trading options Tesla, I've given up on that. I don't know. Elon's got my number. I can't tell you. Somebody should just accept it and move on. I think every trader who trades regularly just has this one product or strategy. It just doesn't seem to work. But this one, over the course of my career, is the one nemesis that I just can't tackle. It's those damn V pivots. So I'm kind of coming clean, and to be honest with you, I'm reaching out to the YouTube community. Maybe they could help me out a bit. These V pivots are just very interesting, where you have this big down move and then just violent up move. And I understand short covering and all that, but there usually should be a setback, a pullback during that second part of the V. And sometimes, and most often it happens, but when it doesn't, I tend to sort of get trapped. Now, I'm going to show you in a couple examples on how I've adjusted to it. And I think I'm getting better at it. But the bottom line is, when the first half of the V, when it goes down, I'm a pig in crap. So I love it. And to be honest with you, February was one of the best months I've ever had because of that panic to the downside. But boy, this violent move back up, kind of caught me here and there. And I've managed to scalp my way out of situations and things like that. But I just, at some point, I said, there were a lot of alerts that triggered me to say, hey, Mike, this is not happening. This move is real. And I've did certain things by lightening up. But I want to give you a couple examples. I'm going to go right to the charts here of how I handled it. Now, the first part I want to, full disclosure, is, if I respected sort of pullbacks and short covering rallies, I wouldn't have had that big move in February. I held. I needed all my muscle. And it's one of those things where I have on my trading plan and development plan the past few years to really focus on holding, for bigger gains. And it's really paid off. So if I was getting out every little bounce, that big move would never happen. However, also applying those holding patterns to the back end of the V pivot, at what point do I just say uncle? All right. So I'm going to go through two examples on how or what I should have done or what I think I should have done. And I'll let you be the judge of it. All right. Now, I've used several strategies, particularly in my scalping, to generate alpha along with this sort of losing trade that I had. But it's basically based on a strategy that I've introduced to the YouTube community a few weeks back. So click on the link below. I'll give you all the details, the cheat sheet, and exactly how that works. It's been working for me for 14 years, so I'm not questioning it. But in these two examples, these are clear signals to the long side that I may have or should have respected a little bit more. Right? The first one was on April 22nd. Even though I was holding my shorts on the way down in February, here there were clear long signals to say, Mike, either lighten up or do whatever. All right, let's go to the next chart. On May 8th, all right, this is another long signal. I didn't just start adding to losing positions, but I should have probably respected more. So those are two examples where, I don't know if I made the right decision. I'm obviously hindsight's 2020, and I'm kind of sticking to it because when I look at it again, sure, I should have gone long there, got out of my short. But if I did that on the short side, I wouldn't have had my home run trades. So here are my notes on what I put in my journal about the positives and negatives of these trades. Okay, we'll go right through them, and I'll put a little scroll on the bottom. All right. While my bias was strong for continuation, I stuck to stop losses, and I didn't add to a losing position. So I'm going to give myself an A on that. Had several scalps going the other way. Business as usual, right? Markets kind of do that up and down, reverse, up, down, reverse. And it helped my overall April results. So I'm going to give myself an A on that, right? My scalping really replenished some of those losing trades on this particular sort of bigger swing trade. So I'm proud of that. And that happens a lot of times. When I crush it for the month, it's my scalping is working, my swing trades are working. But ones that are kind of iffy or have a slightly positive month, or, I think in January I had like a negative month, it was just the scalping was good, but just could not replenish some of the bigger losses on the swing side. All right. So I don't know, maybe that's my Achilles heel. All right, next one. My balanced portfolio delta stuck to the charts and not my opinion. So this is pretty cool. I'm very proud of this one, where maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I would just stick to the strategies and say, okay, this is it. Okay, there's a bunch of short trades coming up. I'm just going to go short on all of them. But now I'm always focused on my net portfolio delta, right? I want to see a little more balanced thing. So, because if you get things like this, the other side's going to help out and keep me sort of in the game rather than going all in on like 6 USD, long trades, and you end up getting screwed. All right, so I'm going to give myself an A+ on that. It's very, very important to me. Next, I used options instead of futures, which gave me some more time to be right if needed. I kind of like that because a lot of these swing trades require futures to be held overnight and over a weekend. And it's not just about the broker's margin. It's just, I want to live my life and sleep well. So having options to know that sometimes, these bounces to turn back short take some time. You don't just go like boom, boom. All right. Although in this case, a V pivot, it kind of felt like that. All right. Give myself a B+ in that. Exited any remaining trades on a 618 bull flag. Let me show the picture here of this on May 1 to 9. So May 1st to 9th, bull flag. Normally, I don't get out on flags or patterns, right? I get out on certain price points, price levels. I'm a big price action person in the sense of, levels, particularly fibs. I normally don't do it, but I kind of respected the market here. I said, this bounce is more than it should be, all right? And I'm respecting it, even though the fundamentals kind of weren't there, but that was another problem for another day. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, so I'm going to give my A+ here too. Kind of saved me. I said, you know what? I'm going to give up a little earlier. I could always get back in. And I'm not going to get frustrated if the market just goes back in reverse, which is probably a lie because I would be frustrated without that short position. All right, so I'll give myself an A+ there. Tap on the back. I respected the fib ambush zone, which is the 50 to 618 retracement levels. I'll show that on the screen here, even though it didn't work out. So, I'll give myself B+ on that too. Okay, that was pretty cool. So let's talk about sort of the no buenos that I have here. All right. Big one. I got caught up in the news events too much. I just, thinking this economy is going to hell. All right. This bounce is normal. All right. Talks to China. That's great. Let it rally. This is all basically sucking in long so I can go short again. And it didn't happen, at least, up until this taping. So I respect TA too much for me to let news get involved. I don't watch CNBC, don't watch Bloomberg. I'm giving myself a little credit on that. But you just got sucked up in the news. And I'm looking at this too as my actual words were, I let news penetrate my concrete wall. All right. And that is I'm a trader. I'm not a fundamentalist. And that's a no bueno. So I'm going to give myself a C. Probably should give myself less. I was more focused on fundamental stuff, which I like to play a role in my bias, but it shouldn't be that heavy. I also put a B in, maybe I used my solid start or my quote, big monster short that I had in February to sort of consider it like house money. Like I can go a little more riskier here too, because I'm playing with house money. Well, it's February, now it's May. If it was November, I could see maybe that style, but I think I used that sort of a safety net in the sense of, well, I'm playing with sort of house money. The next, no bueno, the 50% fib pullback failure, right? That was a key one, right? It was a big tell. And I sort of discounted it saying, well, it's probably just going to go up to the 618. Well, yeah, it did. And it kept going. All right. So, I use Fibonacci's to play a role in my bias and use it as a big market context tool. But at the end of the day, it shouldn't be the catch-all. All right. The bottom line is it didn't respect the 50% fallback and really hung in there. And just there was no sign of sellers coming in. I failed to recognize that and discount that. So I'm going to give myself a C-. So in summary, these V pivots have always become sort of a challenge for me. But to be honest with you, sort of confirmation bias, but a lot of times they work out. That's why I use them in my strategies. But really, to respect my primary strategy, and when it violates that, at minimum, I should lower size, which I did, by the way. But I really, at some point, should have got out a lot earlier. So I'm having a little trouble here. I want to know what you think. All right, maybe I suck. Just put, Mike, you suck. All right, that's okay. I don't know. I guess after 15 years of doing this, you're going to have, days where it just or swing trades where it just don't work out. The math is, or you're human. You start watching news, you go to parties, they're talking about, president's going to kill the economy and stuff and things like that. There were a lot of other things I watched too that were very valuable. I didn't add to this too, but I was watching the bond market a lot. They were showing tells of recession and stuff like that. And guess what? Just because you go into recession doesn't mean the markets can't bounce. Short covering, and I'm actually talking out loud here. This is probably another no bueno. Short covering rallies can be violent. I don't care what the economies are. And this is pretty much what happened. So my wrap up, I put my notes here. I have a bias, and I think that's good. And overall, I benefited from adjusting my size. So I still had sort of a bias, not an all-in type of bias, but respecting market behavior. And I reduce size because of that, which is tough for me to do. I'd rather just get stopped out. But I might be right with sort of less conviction in the future and just kind of, get out early. You could always get back in. Kind of was a little FOMO there where when this market turns, when I'm going to be late to the party again. I had a really good position. I didn't want to blow it. So I don't know. But when I ignore the charts on a lot of key things, key levels, when I have my strategy telling me to go long when I'm short, I have to respect it more. All right. On a swing trade, I can be a little flexible, but me personally, I think I blew it there. I don't know, you tell me. I'm reaching out. Let me know if I've been a little hard on myself. You say, Mike, don't worry, it happens to all of us, or, Mike, you suck. All right, that's okay too. I need the encouragement. And I think having this conversation maybe will promote you to have your conversation too. Like, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Again, if you want more information, you can just click on the link below, have the whole video. It really has been my sort of bread and butter for 14, 15 years now. So, it wasn't like I was, going something totally off the deep end. All right, let me know your thoughts. I'm curious what you think. Personally, I don't know, maybe I'm just gonna have to live with the fact that V pivots suck, and I'll just, just gotta make sure I reduce the damage as opposed to taking advantage of them. All right, let me know what you think and place your comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.